Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the Radeon RX 6700 XT in Assassin's Creed Mirage. So this one is the Sapphire Pulse edition of the card. We are running it with the latest AMD drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power Ups. GPUs, it has 12 gigs of GDDR6 and resizable bar is also enabled. And over on the left, we're pairing it with the i5-13600K with the E-cores disabled because that introduces a lot of stuttering in this game, and overclocked to 5.6 GHz on all cores. It's actually running on the background, that's why it's being utilized at the moment. We're also pairing it with 32 GB of DDR5 6000 MHz RAM in dual channel, and let's get right into it, shall we? Let's go over the settings first. I'm playing at 1080p resolution. We're also going to test 1440p and 4K in this video, and we're using the ultra high settings preset first because, well, it actually runs pretty well, or at least it ran really well with the 3060 Ti. We're using TAA as well, adaptive quality set to off, and native resolution. Alright, so apparently this is not as good as the 3060 Ti was, but it's still pretty capable of achieving good FPS with ultra high settings, but we'll also test this with the high settings preset instead, which looks very similar to this and performs a lot better as well. Still, if you're playing at 1080p, just max out the game and you'll be completely fine at native resolution. As you can see, it's not even dropping into the 60s, so it's going to be a buttery smooth experience with the 6700 XT, and that's what I like to see. It's getting really similar FPS to what I saw with the ARC A770, but that GPU was playing on high settings, which is much less intensive. There's still a very high settings preset in the middle of the two. Still, again, the high settings preset is very similar in terms of visuals to what we're seeing right now, and you just get a smoother experience, of course, especially on a high refresh rate monitor. Now, I think the game is stuttering a little bit more than usual, because I've already seen like 3 bigger stutters here. It's not as bad as with E-cores enabled, that used to stutter like every 5 seconds or so, with a big frame time spike as well. This is much better than that, and it's not enough to drop our 1% lows, but yeah, I was expecting a buttery smooth experience, and we're still seeing a few spikes here and there. So please, Ubisoft, just fix your game already. It's been out for a few days. It's time for a patch to fix the stuttering issues and the E-cores as well on Intel CPUs. It's after all an Intel-sponsored title. I guess it might be loading stuff as we progress here into the map. Look at that. Yeah, what the hell is that, dude? I did not see this much stuttering on any GPUs that I tested so far. What the? No way. No way. Oh boy, that was really terrible right there. Okay, maybe it's the new area again. Oh, it's still stuttering. Stop it. So let's stop it right there, guys. If you want more FPS while retaining really good visual quality, you could enable FSR 2, which looks pretty decent, you know, especially if you increase the sharpening to 69%, yes. It looks pretty decent in this game. I'd probably just start utilizing upscalers at like 1440p, because at 1080p you can tell a little bit of a difference with FSR. You couldn't tell much of a difference with like DLSS and XeSS though, but yeah, FSR is usually a little bit inferior to those technologies on the competitor's side of things. But yeah, it's good to give you really high FPS. You can see you do get 20 frames per second more or so, but at the cost of a lot of shimmering, especially on the ground right here. You can see it's like it's shimmering basically. It's really weird, you know. And I've also seen this with native resolution without any FSR enabled, but it's just way more emphasized here, and it can be a bit distracting, especially on a bigger monitor like 27-inch 1080p monitors, for example. At 24 inches it should still look pretty good, you know, especially if you're not on the ground. Over here you don't really see any shimmering whatsoever, which is nice. But again, it's something to keep in mind. I would leave that disabled. I would also leave DLSS disabled, for example. There's that, my friends. I am gonna go ahead and increase the resolution now to 2560 by 1440. Alright, here we have it, 2560 by 1440, using the same ultra high settings with TAA on native this time. And Look at that. Even here at TAA native, it's actually shimmering quite a bit on the ground. This is weird, guys. Of course, on a smaller monitor, that won't be noticeable. Oh, hello there. I just died. Are we getting around the same FPS as 1080p? What? Okay, no, we are not. We're dropping into the 60s already. Okay, water is very intensive in this game. It's also super noisy, as you can see. And it introduces stuttering issues, apparently, on this GPU. I mean, maybe I've seen the same stuttering issues with the 4070 Ti. Not as bad, but when I reached the water part of the game, over here, basically, it also did start stuttering a little bit more. And everywhere else, it was a buttery smooth experience. So just Ubisoft, again, please fix the stuttering issues. If you fix the stuttering issues, it's gonna be like the best optimized title of 2023. It's insane. It probably already is, actually. Anyway, it's getting slightly lower FPS than 1080p resolution, you know? I did not expect to see this. It's like we lost, what, like 5 to 10 frames per second by increasing the res? That's crazy, dude. Usually you see a much bigger drop in FPS. Can I assassinate this guy? Yes. Thank you very much. He didn't die. He didn't die. What? No. Okay. You know what? I think I need a controller, because this clicking Alt stuff and Q for different things is pretty weird. Oh boy. It just feels weird. You know, the controller. Or maybe I just need to change the controls themselves. Okay, anyways. We made it. Everything's all right. Let's collect the things here. Elixir, bone whistle. That's interesting. Anyway, do you know what we need to do here? We really need to find Jack. That's very important. It's imperative that we find that bastard, because he's probably hiding away here in this town, waiting for cuddles. See, we're approaching the water. I already saw a little frame time spike there. But I guess at this point it's already loaded, you know. No matter what I do, it doesn't really have those terrible stutters that we saw previously at 1080p. Also, it did drop from 60 frames per second there for a second. Oh boy, it's also dropping here into the lower 60s at times. It's getting pretty intensive with all of these NPCs in front of us. A lot of details, of course. Alright, this is more of what I expected coming from the 6700 XT at 1440p after seeing what it can do at 1080p. Anyway, if you're okay with a few drops here and there from 60 frames per second, this is gonna be a great experience. And yeah, if you're not okay with that, there's always the option of lowering the settings to high or use some FSR as well. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. FSR2 on quality with 69% sharpness. It's the best sharpness ever. And all right, again, at 1440p it looks way better than at 1080p. And remember, we were seeing 62 frames per second looking in this direction. Now we're seeing 78. So that's a big jump in performance for a small hit to the visuals here at this resolution. Oh, that's a lot of loot over here. No. That kind of looked like hay, you know? Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway. We didn't die this time around. That's all right. Should we? Oh, I'm gonna do it. Oh, I thought he was gonna do it to both of them, guys. Oh, damn it. I think you could do that. There's Jack. Hello there. I think you could kill two of them with the assassination thing in one of the other Assassin's Creeds. Not sure, though. He usually only has one of those hidden blades. What are you doing? I thought you were a fish or something. What the heck? That's so weird, buddy. Yeah, the water, again, really intensive stuff. This is where we saw it drop into the 50s, and now it's in the 80s. So again, if you don't mind using some FSR, which looks pretty good at the 1440p resolution, a little bit more pixelated than native, of course, but not really a big deal. Yeah, this is definitely a way to play the game with always above 60 FPS. Okay, now we're up to 3840 by 2160 resolution, 4K, using the ultra high settings, TAA on native, and alright, it's looking really good. It's getting very similar FPS once again to what the ARC A770 did, but at high settings, and this is on ultra high settings. So let this sink in. This is an Intel sponsored title. In some games, the ARC A770 is similar to the 3060 Ti and the RX 6700 XT. Very few titles out there. It's usually a little bit slower than those, but yeah, there are games out there where it matches these GPUs GPUs. But in this Intel-sponsored title, again, I can emphasize that it loses to both of them by quite a lot, you know? That's pretty weird to see. I was really expecting a lot better coming from the ARC A770. Not really from the 6700 XT, and honestly, I was expecting lower from the 3060 Ti as well. Like, that GPU blew my mind with its performance in Assassin's Creed Mirage, honestly. It did really well, okay? It was getting around like 60 FPS, 55 to 60 here at these settings. Now, yes, it does run really well because it's an older engine. I am aware of that, okay? You don't need to spam the comments saying, oh, it's not well optimized, just an old engine. I don't care if it's an old engine. It looks just as good as a ton of titles that came out this year, maybe slightly worse than some of them, yeah, but it runs way better than any of them. Like, even Payday 3 looks way worse than this, and it runs worse at the same time. So I'll take this, you know? If the way to make the games playable on a lot of GPUs with good FPS, high FPS, and decent visuals is to use older engines, please do so, developers. Anyway, let's stop it there and let's play it with FSR Quality here. I wouldn't really go lower than Quality even at 4K resolution using FSR, alright? Because, yeah, you can notice that it is way softer than it was before, whereas like DLSS and XeSS looked pretty much the same as native resolution here at 4K res. FSR is just slightly softer. It doesn't have that pixelated look anymore though from FSR that we saw at 1080p and a little bit at 1440. I can't really notice major pixelation. It's just a softer look. Oh wow, it's actually getting 72 FPS average. It feels really smooth actually. And you know what? On a 32-inch 4K monitor or like 27 or 28-inch, this might be a way to go, because the softer look won't really be that noticeable, and honestly, with 100% sharpness, it looks pretty damn good, even at 42 inches, which is what I'm using at the moment. So yeah, you can definitely get some good results here. I'm gonna try to use some XeSS on Quality next, just to see how it looks. Yeah, a little bit better for sure. There's a bit more detail on the image, but you also get lower FPS. So yeah, with FSR you can get 60 to 70 on average most of the time, but it will drop into the 50s inevitably, even without spotting any water in front of you and stuff like that. But still, it provided a smooth experience, and it's a single-player title. You don't really need 60 plus 100% of the time, although it's nice to have that, of course. It feels awesome whenever it's at 60 plus. This doesn't really feel that awesome anymore, but hey, it's still very playable, and it's a good bump over native, and with XeSS, it looks very similar to native as well. Maybe it's just slightly softer once again, but the detail is there compared to FSR. And now we're down to 1080p once again, using the high settings preset with ultra high textures still. I just changed this setting right here. I'm also going to disable motion blur and TAA set to native once again. And look at that, guys. We're now getting 100 plus FPS. Sometimes it drops, of course. I guess it will average around 100. That's noticeably smoother on a high refresh rate monitor compared to the 80-ish frames per second that we were seeing previously. You know what? Couldn't you land on top of people? That would be great. Maybe you wouldn't lose any health by doing so. You know, that's just a little tip for an assassin. Okay. Anyway, as you can see, it's still very, very buttery smooth. Obviously, it was already very smooth previously. Let's pet Jack, finally. Hello, little buddy. How's it going? Hello, guys. How's it going? I'm just gonna pass by. Yes, okay. Please don't attack me. Oh, thank you very much for missing. So can you tell the difference between these settings and the ultra-high settings? At least not seeing things side by side, I can't really tell much of a difference. The lighting still looks really awesome, especially during sunrise and sunset. It can look really pretty, this game, sometimes. And I mean, the textures are still maxed out, so when it comes to that, it still looks pretty much the same, you know, obviously. And everything else is just a step down in quality, but I just can't tell And yeah, it's not as good as 3060 Ti. Again, that got like 130, 140 FPS using these same settings in another area of the map as well, which might have been a little bit less intensive. But I compared the two areas with the GTX 1050 Ti, and I was getting the same FPS with that card. But that was on low settings, so maybe there's a little bit of variance on higher settings between the areas. But yeah. Fact of the matter is, this is very playable. It's also like 30 FPS faster than the RK 770, and you can enjoy some Assassin's Creed Mirage for sure at 1080p. We already knew that, right? I'm not going to test FSR because this is already a pretty high refresh rate-ish experience. So I'm going to test it at 1440p right away. Still on the high settings, native resolution, TAA. So if you remember previously, for you it's just a few minutes ago, but yeah, on the ultra high settings preset and native resolution, this was getting around 70 to 80 FPS in that not so intensive area. Goodbye, sir. Nice to meet you. Well, I didn't really meet you, you know, but you got Jack over here and I gotta free him. There we go, Jack. Also, this water here is pretty intensive. It's dropping into the 60s at times, but it's not dropping from 60, so you're good. On high settings and native 1440p, it's not gonna drop from 60 FPS. Unless you come across a big river, you know? Nice, nice. This time I didn't lose any health. Maybe then it will drop into the lower 60s, but I doubt it will drop from 60 because on ultra high it dropped to like 55 or 58 FPS on the lowest. So here it's always gonna be at 60 plus no matter what, which is extremely good for a 1440p resolution experience in 2023, right? Let's just enable, you know what, I'm gonna do XeSS on quality since we're already above 60 FPS the entire time, and XeSS quality looks a little bit better than FSR in this game. Although with the RK 770, I think it looked a little bit better still. At 4K resolution, it definitely looked better than this here with the C700 XT, but that's obvious. At 1440p, you are losing a little bit of quality, and it is shimmering a little bit more, especially on the ground and stuff. Yeah, I can definitely notice a big difference in quality, so I just play it on the default TAA native setting here and be done with it. Still, let's just test it out with some FSR. It has ultra quality. No? It doesn't. It was a bug. What the hell was that, dude? Alright. Yeah, FSR delivers... You know what? It might actually look a little bit better than XeSS with this card. At 1440p alone. Or maybe it's just the same thing and I'm just confusing things in my head. But it's definitely a lot faster than XeSS. We're getting like 10 more FPS than with the other upscaler from Intel. So... this is probably the way to go if you want to use any upscalers here at 1440p high settings. Again, I wouldn't, because you can tell that the pixelation of FSR is happening sometimes on moving targets, on like my clothes and stuff like that. It's just slightly more pixelated than it was at native resolution. Well, at native resolution it wasn't pixelated at all, but yeah, you get the idea. And since it was already a so buttery smooth experience at native res, oh boy, I just used native res here. So, yeah, that's it for the 1440p. I'm gonna set it to TAA once again and play at 4K. Here we have it, 3840 by 2160 native resolution with ultra high textures. By the way, you can have ultra high textures even at 4K, as you saw previously at ultra high settings. 12 gigabytes of VRAM are enough for that, and we're already dead. Great stuff. It's getting 40 still, not that different from ultra high, unfortunately, at the 4K resolution. But again, this is one of the most, if not the most intensive area that I've come across here in this game. Maybe water areas are a little bit more intensive. A little bit of water here as well. Not a problem though. I like people like, wait, what are you doing? What? You're gonna drown like that, buddy. That's not how you bath. Anyway, let's keep on going here. So notice that it's not stuttering whatsoever here on high settings. I think I didn't see a single big spike in that frame time graph yet. But yeah, it seems like we're getting around 5 FPS average. 5 to 6 FPS average, I guess, compared to the 4K ultra high settings, native. But that dropped into the 30s, and this is never gonna drop into the 30s, so... It's really good like this, guys. 1% lows at 40 frames per second. Still not a smooth, very, very smooth experience, but if you must play at native 4K res, this is probably the way to go. Medium settings just lowers the graphics a bit too much for my taste, so I wouldn't really do that. Let's go FSR2 on quality. Will it give us our big bump in FPS? Yes, it will. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I'm actually gonna use the 100% sharpen strength right here. Apply that, and it looks really good, guys. Alright, you know what, if you have a 32-inch monitor, or even like a 42-inch monitor like I do here, or you are playing on a TV, for example, I think this might be the way to go, guys. FSR2 does look very good in this game compared to other titles. You know, all of the upscaling technologies here in this game look very good. I hope to see more games supporting all of them equally, you know. But yeah, it's not 4K native, obviously, it's upscaling from a lower resolution, that's what FSR does, but it still looks 4K-ish with the 100% sharpening here, especially on a 32-inch monitor. You'll be hard-pressed to notice a difference with FSR on and off on quality and 100% sharpness at a 32-inch or 27-inch 4K monitor. Again, the pixelation from FSR is just not there anymore at 4K. It's just slightly, very, very slightly softer than native res. I'm just gonna find the river again because I really am curious to see if it drops or not there. And then we're gonna be done with the video. This is it, right? Yes, there it is. Okay, 62, 60, 59. Alright, it only slightly drops from 60, guys. Even in intensive water here. So yeah, that's been it for this one. Lovely result here from the 6700 XT. I still expected slightly more after seeing the 3060 Ti, but still, this is perfectly acceptable performance, especially for a 2023 title, and it was playable pretty much with every settings that we threw at it today. So that's amazing. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.